It is my pleasure to introduce our guest on today's podcast. He is none other than the renowned author of the international bestseller, The Role of Love, Paul Solman. But what makes Paul an expert on love, you may ask? Well, his story is a true testament to the power of love and its ability to transform even the most difficult circumstances. Growing up in a family plagued by abuse, Paul's childhood experience was of the opposite of love. This only fueled his determination to find love in its purest form. Despite being surrounded by anger and violence, Paul refused to let it consume him. He embarked on a journey to discover the true meaning of love and eventually developed a method that not only transformed his own life, but also the lives of those around him. With his book, Paul shares his personal journey and the strategies that help him go from a place of anger to loving everyone, which we all need. We all need love, right, Paul? He challenges the belief that physical touch is the only way to express love, a belief that was ingrained in him due to his upbringing. Instead, he offers a paradigm shift that has proven to work for him and can work for anyone seeking a fulfilling and loving life. I'm certain that you will be inspired by Paul's story as I am and his message of love and acceptance. Without further ado, I present to you the man who truly embodies the role of love, Paul Solman. Welcome to my podcast, Paul.
Sheila, that was the nicest introduction I've ever heard. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
You are welcome. I was listening to your book, and I love it. I love the stories that you spoke about, and I love how you put together. The funny thing is with the dice, and you're talking about the dice and how you roll it every day, and you look at the pictures, and that shows love. And I was just enthralled by that because we don't see that very often, and I'm like, this was something that people need. It helps you to remember as Christians, as human beings, that we need to love one another. That's something that's missing today. So I want you to share with us how your personal faith and your understanding influenced the creation of the role of love concept.
Great question, Sheila, and thank you for that. I actually had a difficult time. I grew up in that anger, as you had already mentioned, in that angry household. And with anger comes the put downs, comes the competition, comes the sarcasm. People will walk over you when you're trying to say something. They'll start in and they'll try to say something. Just all those things are kind of part of that angry culture, including the words, including humor. Anything like that would be on the angry side of the spectrum to me. And with that, I got married and thought I was over it. I moved out when I was 17, thought I was all done with it. Realized I was still blaming my father at age 35 for all that anger. I still had a lot of residual anger left. Was blaming him for all the awkwardness in my life. It's awkward when you get angry in public.
Yeah.
It's like someone having an accident in a swimming pool. Everybody scatters from that person. You're isolated. You're totally, absolutely isolated. And sorry for that visual.
No, it's okay.
It really is how I felt. I felt absolutely isolated. Even family members did not want to be around me at that particular point in time. And so it was just something I didn't want that in my life. I had enough of it, did not want to continue it. So I actually thought maybe I probably should start taking responsibility for my own actions instead of blaming someone else.
Right.
Because that blame is kind of a false atonement, if you will, that if I can blame someone else, it's not my fault and it's their problem. I don't have to do a darn thing about it. I can still blame. And it's really kind of a victim mentality that I had, that if I blame someone else, then and I'm always right, I will never have to do anything different because I feel like I'm right.
Right, right.
And when I realized that wasn't going to work, because my father, he was had by age 35, he had been dead already 7 years, and I
Mm,
was still blaming him. And he had there was no chance to talk to him, no chance to reconcile that way, and it was just a situation. Okay, now I'm really responsible. I'm really have to take that upon myself to
right, right.
be a better person. That was like too little too late, because after 23 and a half years of marriage, this anger issue and some other things that happened in our marriage really kind of caused the demise of the marriage. I had eight children, and I had primary custody of the children. So what happened is that with that primary custody, she would have every other weekend with the children. On those weekends, I decided I was going to do something fun, midlife crisis.
Mhm.
I was going to go destination dating. So, Sheila, what destination dating is that I would find someone online that lived in a different city. We'd choose a city to meet in, have a
Mhm.
date, then go back home. And I did that for about a year and a half. And I
Wow.
had a great time. I went to Daytona Beach and Jacksonville and Atlanta and
Wow.
Columbia, South Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, New York City, Kansas
Mhm.
City, Salt Lake City. I went to Nashville, Phoenix, Las Vegas, Cabo San Lucas, all these fun places I went, had a great time,
Mhm.
couldn't find love. I felt like I was part of that lyrics of the song, looking for love in all the wrong
Mhm.
places.
Yes.
I thought I had a line on someone, and I moved to Phoenix.
Hmm.
And while I'm there, my ex-wife decided that she wanted primary custody back. After 3.5 years, she wanted that custody back. There were three remaining children, but she was going to go live with her parents. And I thought, this is perfect for those last three children to get to know their grandparents. And I thought it was a good situation. So now I'm really all alone, all by myself. My sister, in that time, my older sister, I'm number 10 of 11 children,
Wow.
Sheila.
Numbers.
So,
Wow.
well, my grandfather had 19 children, and then my father only had 11. I,
Wow.
I only had eight, and my children are only having three, Sheila. I don't get it. What is this? Why can't I have more grandchildren? Just continue with it. And it seems like the generations are getting worse for having children. So anyway, so my older sister calls me up and she says, I have this neighbor I want to introduce to you. My sister lived 7 hours away. I
Wow.
just finished all this destination dating and I was done. Did not want to do more destination dating. And so I said, no, I don't think so. She said, oh, come on. And number 10 of 11, you got to do what your older siblings tell you to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
For back in the day, Sheila, I was the remote control. If the older sibling wanted to change the channel,
Get
I had to walk up to the TV and turn the knob and change the channel. It
Listen,
was,
Paul, I'm the youngest of, I want to say like 16. My father had six, my mother had five, and then they had three together.
oh
I'm the
wow.
youngest of everyone. So
Oh my
trust me, I
goodness.
know.
Oh, oh, you know what it's exactly what it's like then, don't you?
Yeah.
That's funny. So here I am, and
Mhm.
I said, okay, I will email her. What kind of relationship can you expect to build in an email
Right, right,
system?
right.
I wasn't expecting much, but this neighbor of my sister was a really good writer.
Hmm.
And I thought, this is kind of interesting. So after 4 or 5 exchanges, I get brave and I said, well, how many times have you been married? And as I'm writing this, and she writes back, said, counting the five that are buried in the backyard. And I just laughed till I cried. I just felt like I found a live wire. I found someone with a sense of humor, someone
Yeah.
with personality. This
Hmm.
would be worth pursuing. So we started getting, contacting more and getting closer. Then I decided to move up where my sister's at, and we got serious. As we're serious, I now it's time for big brother approval. Number 10, 11, you always have to have that too. So You know what I'm talking about, Sheila.
Mhm.
So I take this woman to my brother's house, 300 miles north of where I live. And we go in. The first thing that happens is that my sister-in-law pulls her aside and said, the only emotion that the Zolman family learned growing up was anger. At first I denied it, said, oh, then it made me mad. And I was busted, Sheila. I was just proving her point. And I thought, if if that's the perception of the Zolman family, then I have an opportunity right here and now to change that perception. And I
Right.
realized it was a generational thing that had been passed down. We learned what we learned from our parents.
Because it wasn't just you, it was your siblings also.
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was my father, and it may have been his father as well. We don't know how far it went back, but
Mm-hmm.
it had been passed down for many, many generations. And so I thought, I've got an opportunity to change this. So I started reading the color code and then settled on the five love languages. And the
Mm-hmm.
five love languages really resonated with me. I'm Christian,
Mm-hmm.
and Dr. Gary Chapman also was a pastor. And he said in his book that these five love languages reconcile to the life of Jesus Christ.
Okay.
Well, I had to do my own reconciliation, my own little fact check, so to speak. And I realized that he's absolutely right. So I really resonate those the principles resonated with me. The application, I didn't get it. From where I came from an angry household
Mm-hmm.
to saying, well, if I guess what Sheila's love language is and I cater to Sheila, that's he's calling that love. I'm a bad guesser, and that didn't sound like love either. It
Right.
really didn't sound like it. So the second thing that Dr. Chapman has in his book is that, well, if I take this survey, then I can find out what my love language is. Sheila, what am I supposed to do with that? Advertise? Hello, Sheila. I'm gifts. What do you have for me today? I mean, I could put a badge on and that gave me an idea. Maybe I should make badges that said, "Hello, I'm gifts. What do you have for me today?" So I can announce what
Right.
my love language is to
Right.
other people, so they can cater to me. That didn't sound like love either. And it wasn't. Inadvertently, I know that Dr. Gary Chapman, he didn't mean it, but it created this little pity party that if I tell you what my love language is and expect that to come, what if it doesn't happen? Well, I told you what my love language is. Why aren't you doing it? And you
Mm-hmm.
get to that little whiny voice, that pity party that says, you know, it's not happening. So I didn't want to go there with that either. But I had an idea. I thought, games, playing games together as a family, even as dysfunctional as our family was
Mm-hmm.
growing up, playing games brought our family together. I thought, well, maybe making this into a game might be a better choice. So I thought, I contacted Dr. Chapman and asked, are you licensing those little icons, the little pictures you have for each one of the love languages? And his attorney wrote me back and said, no, we're not doing that right at this time. So I thought, whew, they're kind of ugly. They're dated. I mean, they're over 30 years old. It really didn't fit what I wanted to do anyway.
Right.
So what I did was I went to an attorney locally, a copyright attorney, intellectual property attorney, and he said that theory, like the love language theory, is not copyrightable. Application is. So
Mm-hmm.
how you present it is copyrightable. So with that, I made my own icons, my own little pictures, and then made it into a game. I put it on a cube. Here's the cube.
Look at that. Wow.
So on each side of the cube, I've got a love language. This one is a hand holding a gift, for gifts. Two hands touching one another. That would be for touch. Two hands forming a heart together with a little conversation fly out of that. That'd be the words from the heart. An hourglass on a hand representing time. And then looks like a waiter holding a platter that would represent service. There's five love languages, six sides on the heart. The sixth side I created on the cube is surprise me. So
Oh, okay.
So, Sheila, there's just two instructions. You roll the die every day. Whatever it lands on, that's the love language you practice giving away all day that day.
To
all
anybody, to anyone you come across. Like,
all day to everyone. That's right. So the problem for me, Sheila, was that I was single at the time I created this. I did not have that significant other that Dr. Chapman suggests that you do this with your significant other, make it more romantic.
mhm, right.
It was a blessing in disguise because I really needed that consistency to be able to do it all day long to everyone. I needed that behavior adjustment, so to speak, that replacement behavior. Instead of being annoyed, and being angry, having that angry flash, I needed to feel like I could send love out and just watch what would happen. So what I was thinking before, when I'm feeling angry, I really kind of dialed it down and said, why am I angry?
Mm.
And I realized that it was actions of other people. Rarely did I get angry at things that I was doing or annoyed at what I was doing. One time, Sheila, I did get annoyed at myself and I didn't talk to myself for 3 days.
That- How did that work out?
Yeah, that's a good question. How did it work out? So I found out I'm annoyed at other people, and I realized that is totally out of my control,
Right.
out of my lane. Why was I getting annoyed at what they were doing? I'm not making their choices in their life.
Hmm.
I'm not in control of their life, and it's just none of my business. When I realized that, I was able to draw a line and say, well, I don't have to say what's wrong with them anymore. I don't have to judge them anymore. Now the focus is what's right with that person. What can I love about that person? And I realized I was focusing on the minority of what people have. Maybe they're bad, or maybe they've got weaknesses, 10 to 20% of their personality or their life. And I was focusing on that 10 to 20%. I realized I was missing that 80 to 90% of who that person really is. When I started focusing on what's right with that person, I was so busy. Now I've got all these qualities of a person that I never saw before because I only saw the faults. Now they've got all these qualities of this person that I see now that were not visible before.
Four.
I can talk about it, and I'm so busy doing that, I forget to be annoyed.
Wow.
It's a replacement behavior. And it's instead of looking back at what I was annoyed about, now I'm looking forward to what's right about that person.
It's
What
like
can I
you're,
love about that person?
it's like you're filling you're removing all of the, again, the negative stuff, and you're filling it with the good stuff that you see in that in people or that particular person. That's awesome. That's a very good strategy. Not strategy. Yeah, strategy. That's a really good an outlook. Because let's face it, I mean, yeah, I'm one of those people too. I see I can always get annoyed with someone else, but it's always someone else, and it's not me. But that's a really good outlook to start doing.
So what it was for me, Sheila, is
Mhm.
that it's very similar to the Last Supper. At what the question that the disciples were asking Jesus after he said, "One of you will betray me,"
Mhm.
and each disciple said, "Lord, is it I?
Right.
Lord, is it I?"
Mhm.
And each one individually. So that introspective question for myself when problems came up, and as I'm praying, I'm saying, "Lord, is it I?"
Mhm.
Of course, the answer is yes,
Mhm.
but he doesn't flood you with all the things you're doing wrong.
Right.
He'll flood you with information. How do you get over that? And
Exactly.
what is the next positive step to be able to take? And with that information is how this was all created.
Wow. Wow. That's I love that. I really and truly love how you transform and took something that, you look at the positive and not the negative, and you learn how to love and love, and I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, going out every day, rolling the dice and going out every day. And that's what when one of the things you wrote in your book, how you you roll the dice every day and you're like, oh, I think, yeah, not that I live in Las Vegas, but I roll the dice every day.
Mhm.
And, you know, whatever shows up on that dice is what I'm going to do. And let's, you know, when you're going out with talking to strangers, you know, it's in this day and age, you know, that takes a lot of courage, but that is what as Christians we are required to do, to love one another as if we love ourselves, you know. um but it's remarkable how you've been able to do this, and it's transformed your life, you know. um and I can imagine if other people were doing this, how that would help them. You know, let me get up in the morning and throw a dice and decide, you know what, whatever shows up on that dice, that's what I'm going to do for any person that I meet. And it's not how they receive it, but it's you giving it out.
And you're watching, Sheila, all day
Mhm.
long. You're watching for how they receive it. You're not just sending it out, just shotgun approach, but you
Mhm.
really are just purposely, you've got a new purpose for the
Mhm.
day. And it takes 2 seconds to set that in
Right.
place. You'll notice that there are absolutely no words
I
on the
see.
cube at
Mhm.
all, and that there's a purpose for that. Pictures burn into our mind.
Mhm.
We can remember a picture. If I say the word elephant, you're not seeing in your mind ELEPHANT.
You're seeing an elephant.
Absolutely, picture comes to mind.
Yes.
So that's the whole idea, that this will burn into your mind and you'll be able to remember all day long. What did I roll this morning? What kind of opportunities am I watching for? When you exercise that particular opportunity and do it, see the need and do the deed, so to speak.
Mhm.
When you see that opportunity and do it, and they light up, now you've kind of discovered what their primary love language or secondary love language might be. No longer, Sheila, do you have to say, "Excuse me, could we pause this relationship for just a moment while I have you take this quiz so I can find out how to love you?" How awkward would that be? We're done with awkward. You don't have to do that. So you just watch, and over a 30-day period, what I found, Sheila, is that I really was focusing on love, focusing on the good of everybody. And the
Mhm.
transformation for me was miraculous. It was almost overnight. I was looking for something, a replacement behavior. This
Mhm.
became that behavior. It was, I wasn't annoyed. I was just very, very happy to figure out what it was about that person that I really liked about that person. What was it that was really good about that person? And while I'm doing that, people are lighting up, and
Yes.
they're when they light up, it's making their day.
Mhm.
And when it's like at Christmas time, when you give someone a gift and they are really happy about the gift that you gave them, you made their day and they light up. And how do you feel when you do that? You feel absolutely wonderful yourself. That is the key. That's the love that you're looking for. And
Wow.
that's the self-love you're looking for.
Mhm.
It doesn't come with self-indulgence like, oh, I bought myself a toy today. I bought myself a four-wheeler or whatever. It doesn't really come like that. That is so temporary. It just will not last long. This will be remembered in their lives and in your life for a very long time. You're making some uh, life changing.
Mhm.
Uh, you're making life changing decisions for yourself, but you're making life changing impact on other people's life. You may want to record what you're doing there too. I've got a journal that you can say what you rolled that day, opportunities saw to love in that way, what you did about those opportunities. Becomes a
Wow.
love journal. And I would
Mhm.
have loved, Sheila, to have a love journal from my mother or my grandmother or my grandfather.
Mhm.
Instead, I got a journal about the weather. The weather 60 years ago. Who cares about what the weather was like 60 years ago? Unless you're a climatologist, I guess, and you're tracking global warming.
Yeah.
But that I would have loved a love journal.
Yeah. 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 I agree with that, you know, that so you could just see everything. But you know, we often face challenges in consistently practicing love, right?
Mhm.
What advice do you have for individuals who may struggle with embodying love in their daily lives?
I think that the best advice I can give them, Sheila, is that they might feel lonely or they
Mm-hmm.
might feel depressed. And if they're depressed or lonely, the best advice to give is to go find someone that's more lonely and more depressed than you are. And if you can find that person, they're easy to find, very easy to find.
Yeah.
If you can find that person that's more lonely or more depressed than you are and lift them up a little bit,
Mhm.
then you get that same satisfaction as if you'd given them a present and lit them up. Because when you lift them up, it lifts you up automatically. That's the best way to find self-love that I know of. It really is what I call the true self-love. Self-indulgence is not self-love. Giving away love to another is the self-love you're looking for, the satisfaction that it'll bring from doing that. Key
Mm-hmm.
key part of this, Sheila, is that you're giving this love away every single day as you roll the cube. You're
Mm-hmm.
giving love every single away every single day. You're learning all five love languages, and you're giving it away without any expectation of it coming back, but you're trusting the laws of the universe that were set forth by Christ himself, the law of the harvest, the karma, law of attraction, whatever you want to call that law, that whatever you send out will come back to you after many days. It will. It
Mm-hmm.
absolutely will. You've got to trust that process, but have zero expectation of it coming back right now, immediately. And it's contrary to what Dr. Chapman says, that most people will send out their love language hoping that it's going to come right back to them. That's a transaction.
Yeah.
That reciprocity becomes a transaction, and transactions are transactions. That's business.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't let's make a deal.
Yeah.
We're not talking about let's make a deal. I'll give you love if you give me love. It's not like that at all. That's not love. That's business. That's a transaction. Keep it giving it away without any expectation of coming back, trusting that it will come back, and it will.
Mm-hmm.
Second thing that happens is by learning all five love languages, you could do that over a 30-day period because of rolling the die.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have given away all five love languages, and it improves your vision and your communication so you can see it when it comes your way.
Oh, right.
You can respond appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
Most people only see what they like as love. But now you have this peripheral vision. You say, "Oh, they're loving on me. I can see they are. It's not my primary love language, but I can respond appropriately to that and
Mm-hmm.
respond in love in a way that they would understand that you're responding to the love that they're sending." I know I've missed a ton of people loving on me in my lifetime because I could not see it. I thought
Wow.
I thought it was nice, but it wasn't love.
Right. Right. Wow. Wow. That's remarkable. I really, um, I really am encouraged by uh the roles of love. I'm eager to try it out. I'm like, where can I get that little cube, that little dice? Because I really want to try that out because I find sometimes, again, I'll get upset over silly little things, or and angry over things, and I'm like, oh, that's their fault, that's not my fault. But I as a human, I need to try and roll the dice and start doing that every day, and using that language so I can change how transform myself. And that's one of the things this entire year I've been working on Sheila, trying to be a better Sheila, because you get what you put out. And I feel that if I'm trying to be a good person, no, I'm not going to use the word try. I spoke to someone earlier. I had an interview earlier this week, and one of the things I said I was going to take out of my vocabulary was the word try, because that gives you an out to,
Mhm.
But I am gonna do um things to make myself better so that I can be better to other people. to treat them the way I want to be treated, speak to them the way I want to be spoke to. And again, the love language, the love language. How do you talk to someone? There's a lot of things that we don't know. I'm married 23 years. and and sometimes my husband and I, we're still trying to figure out that love language. So that's something I'm gonna definitely get and work on. So you gotta definitely let me know how we get that, and you tell my listeners about your website, and where they can get your book, and definitely, because this is something that we need more of. We need more of things like this to make us better people, to make.
Sheila, I absolutely agree with you that, the mechanic has his tools, the carpenter has his tools,
Mm-hmm.
the doctor has their tools, but really there's not a lot of loving tools out there. And this really is one that can really change your life. We're talking about languages, we're talking about the love languages, but let's for the language portion of this, let me just bring up a couple of words from the Sanskrit dialect, which is in northern India.
Mm-hmm.
The Sanskrit, from that Sanskrit dialect, we get words like nirvana, like karma. But
Mm-hmm.
the one I want to talk about is namaste.
Ah.
The word namaste in that dialect, the Hindu interpretation of that is the God in me
Mm-hmm.
sees the God in you.
Mm-hmm.
Or in other words, the divine in me sees the divine in you. And I talked with a gentleman from India just last week, and he said that, I asked him, the Indian people are such good people, is what I said. I said, is it because of Gandhi? Is it because of Mother Teresa?
Mm-hmm.
And that would be like asking someone in America, are you Democrat because of JFK? I mean, it was that far back in history, and he's in his late 30s, and he said, no, it's not that at all. He said that in our worship areas, he said we teach that we look for the good in our others and the bad in ourselves.
Mm.
Oh, if you turn that around, it's like uh, a lot of people in America focus on the bad in others and the good in themselves.
Yeah.
It's totally opposite,
Mm-hmm.
just like totally upside down. And I thought that's really profound that they're always watching for the good in other people and the bad in themselves instead of the other way around, like we're trained to do from the media.
Right,
And
right.
I think that's profound that we understand that now we're changing that we're trying to watch for the good in other people all day long,
Mm.
all day. Yeah. And Sheila, you said you've been married 23 years, is it?
23 years.
Good for you. Now, in 23 years, you're probably not with your significant other 24/7.
No,
And some people don't want to be with their
no,
significant other 24/7.
no.
You may not be like that, but you got to have a break once in a while. So to me, what Dr. Chapman was preaching of doing this with your significant other makes love kind of a part-time job.
Hmm.
What were you going to do in the other times? Was that free time? You don't have to love in those times? I mean, what was it? This makes it different. This really changes the whole picture that you're extending love to
Right.
everyone within your purview, everyone within your reach, and loving right where you are. You start with your home, you start with yourself, start
Mhm.
with your home, start with the neighborhood, start with the community, start with the state, the nation, the world. This is something that really we can change the world. Instead of having the world rage as it is right now, let's
Right.
insert loving, especially at this time. We really need to insert this. So they can find the cube, they can find my book, and they can find the journal all at my website, which is rolloflove.com, ROLE of love.com. Roll is ROLE is what changes you within. ROLL is what you do with the cube outside of you. So just putting that play on words, bring it together and really enact change in your own life and change in the lives of the people that are around you. It's really going to make a huge difference.
Wow. Well, Paul, I thank you. I really thank you for coming on to my podcast and sharing the role of love and your wisdom, and I like I said, I cannot wait. The minute we finish this, I'm gonna go get that cube and order it because it is. I mean, it's something that we all need in our lives, and I really appreciate you. I appreciate your time. And I thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to say before we end or?
Sheila, one last thing.
Mhm.
Everybody is familiar with The Sound of Music. It was
Yeah.
a classic movie.
Hmm.
One point in that movie, Rolf, the young man that delivers the mail and the telegrams, everything, he's riding his bike and he comes up to the Von Trapp family home and starts singing to the Von Trapp sister or the oldest Von Trapp girl. And in that song that he sings, he said, "Love in the heart wasn't put there to stay. Love isn't love till it's given away."
Wow. Wow.
Try to remember that and remember to give it away.
Yeah.
Sheila, it's been a delight to be with you. Thank you so much for inviting me to be on your podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much.